Well, better luck next year.
Mark, let's get into our first question here of the night.
Not so much a question, but more of a segment. We're gonna move right into the NFL, our NFL report. We all are from different areas, and we all have different favorite teams. So we're gonna kind of go over each individual matchup. And so right now, as Alan said, he is from Minnesota. We're gonna go ahead and let him start with Minnesota and Green Bay.
So we're looking at Week 8 in the NFL this week. I read an interesting story earlier that highlighted the 5 primetime games in the NFL this week. That's last Monday night to this upcoming Monday night, and there's some horrible games, let's just say that. So one of those is the Green Bay Packers against the Vikings. Vikings coming in with their 4th quarterback in 4 games. Now that's not 4 different guys, but that's the 4th starting quarterback in 4 games. Can anybody name those 4?
I think I have a very good chance at this. I know we have Josh Freeman, which I would say was an unmitigated success. And I know
most overthrows in NFL history.
So he came in as just set records.
What Viking fans would give to have Dante Culpepper back, wouldn't they?
Oh God, no, not
Get
Dante.
your roll on, Pep.
Not Dante. So yeah, Freeman was one of them.
Castle.
Castle. He got the only Vikings win of the season. However, that Vikings win was not in North America. So the Vikings have yet to win in North America this year.
And the franchise, first-round pick, future of the squad, Christian Ponder.
That's right. Yep. So those 3 guys have started the last 4 games, including this upcoming game against the Packers. Aaron Rodgers, obviously, the elite of the elite in the NFL. The Vikings secondary is worse, probably the worst in the league, only to the Falcons secondary. And
I can agree with that. As a Falcons fan, folks, I am going to back that up.
So that's not even challenged. And but I guess the one good thing of the Vikings is there are a number of Packers defensive starters out. The Vikings may be able to take advantage on a weaker linebacking core for the Packers. Adrian Peterson might be able to bust a run or two. I believe the spread is at 10 points right now. If I were a betting man, with all of that being said, the Packers' explosive offense, elite quarterback, horrible sieve of a pass defense, as well as really rushing defense for the Minnesota Vikings, as well as a non-existent offense. 10-point spread. If I were a betting man, I'd put my money on the Vikings. I'd have to go with the Vikings. Nothing but the Vikings. I mean, they're not even only going to beat the spread, they will beat the Packers by 10 points. So that's what I'm going with. All that being said.
And folks, that's not a homer pick. That is in-depth research. Now I have a question for you. Who would you say is the second best player on the Vikings?
That's a difficult one. I'm going to say, historically, Chad Greenway is probably the second best player. He's the player that's still on the Vikings. Antoine Winfield would have made a play for that last year, but he's not on the team this year. Adrian Peterson's obviously our best player. We have nobody to speak of for wide receivers. Our offensive line has been a collective revolving door this year. Quarterback, that's obviously not where we're going. So it'd have to be, I got to go with Greenway. What do you think?
Who is Greenway?
Chad Greenway? Come on. Linebacker, Pro Bowl.
Iowa.
Pro Bowler, Iowa. Yeah, he's...
You're telling me I should know Chad Greenway? You heard that Grambling State story last week where the team boycotted? I heard rumors in Minnesota that was happening too.
Is that right?
Yeah.
In the Vikings organization? Oh, man.
So, kind of to build on the question that I asked, would you trade your top 2 players for Aaron Rodgers? So that would be Adrian Peterson and then Chad Greenway.
No-brainer.
I mean, yeah, I have been... I've said already this week that I would trade Adrian Peterson to get a number 1 quarterback, and I do feel that Chad Greenway is replaceable on the defensive end. So yeah, if the Packers had a complete just off day when it comes to evaluating players, I would take that trade in a second.
Who wouldn't make that trade? Who's building a franchise off of a running back these days? It's all quarterbacks.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. The Vikings would have had an elite offense back in 1976. You know,
Stop him.
All 4 quarterbacks go down. You give Brett Favre a call?
Well, Brett's always welcome in purple. Hey, Brett's always welcome in
Imagine
purple.
saying that 10 years ago.
Seriously.
So, do you really think, one more question, we'll move on to the next game after this. Do you really think if you make that trade, the Vikings are really that much better?
I believe that a great elite quarterback makes everybody around him better. I think he can get rid of the ball faster, which would help protect, which would mask our shitty offensive line. I think that he makes the wide receivers better. You know, a very pedestrian core of wide receivers. Jerome Simpson is catching 60-yard, 70-yard touchdown passes if Aaron Rodgers is throwing the ball to him much more consistently. So I do believe that it would be that much difference. Yeah, I think our defense would still obviously have issues unless Aaron Rodgers is going both ways.
Al, you talk about the below-average receivers and Greg Jennings. Pro Bowler when he was with the Packers?
Well, that proves my point only more, doesn't it? That he comes over here and he's just terrible. I mean, the best example, since we're sitting here in Seattle, is look at Sidney Rice when he was catching balls from Brett Favre in 2009 at the Vikings. You know, one of the best receivers in the league comes out here, gets paid. He's got T-Jack thrown to him for a couple of years. God awful, fakes a couple injuries, and now he's all right with the decent arm that Russell has. So.
Who wouldn't choose Brett Favre? Cameron Diaz, maybe.
All right. Moving on, we will go to my favorite team, the Atlanta Falcons. And yes, everyone, I am from Montana, and no, I'm not from Atlanta, so keep your hardo comments to yourself.
So as a Montanian?
Montanan.
As a Montanan, is the hue of your skin a little darker than others as a Montanan?
I am afraid I don't know where you're going with this.
Are you pretty much just a free agent when it comes to football
Oh, yeah,
teams?
absolutely.
Sports teams in general.
Sports teams, yeah, you can pick whoever you want. Most people either go with Seattle, Denver, or Minnesota, unfortunately for those people. As a little kid, I picked Atlanta because mainly I didn't want to have a team that everybody else liked. You know, I was a real trendsetter at a young age. And I liked Deion Sanders and Andre Rison because they were very subtle players, very humble.
Yeah, you're right. There wasn't any showboating to those.
No.
guys.
Hand the ball to the ref, act like you've been there before.
Exactly. That's who they were, and that's what they were about. Anyway, my Atlanta Falcons go to Arizona to take on the Cardinals, who, in my estimation, from talks I had with Max last week, are just awful. Just terrible. The Falcons have gone from 10 yards away from the Super Bowl after blowing a very hefty lead in the NFC Championship game to potentially losing this game, and the season is over. So it's been a real fun ride with them so far this year.
Did you hear about the break in practice they had in their schedule this week?
I know.
Yeah, what's your head coach's name?
Mike Smith.
Yeah, Mike Smith found a powdery substance on the field during practice, so he called it off. Sent everybody home. Brought the bomb squad in. It ended up just being the goal line.
Oh. Ooh. All right.
So, anyways.
I'll just wear that one, huh? Anyway, going down to Arizona, somehow they are underdogs by 3 points. I can't imagine.
Oh my God, are they really?
I can't imagine how that is happening.
Atlanta's a home team now. You're not too surprised, are you?
They were 13-3 last year.
Okay, it's a new year. They're 2-4.
New day, new way. Believe big.
So they're 3-point underdogs, which means that it's a neutral game, but they're giving 3 points to the home team.
They're giving 3 points to the home team, who just got absolutely shellacked by the Seahawks, who the Falcons have beat the last 3 years, twice at the 12th man place where they're so untouchable. And I think, Max, you remember that playoff game very vividly, I remember.
I do. You're supposed to win at home in the playoffs.
Okay. Anyway, they won at home in the playoffs. And now going to Arizona, they probably are going to get Steven Jackson back, who has been just the biggest pussy this entire year.
Sorry, kids.
Yeah, we'll have to maybe drop that from Buddy's a pussy.
So, Mark, are the Falcons a better team with Jackson in the backfield, or the fast-paced Jacquizz Rodgers?
I think with all the injuries you have, obviously Julio's out for the year. Roddy White's been hardly himself when he's playing. He missed his first game of his career last week. I think you're going to see a Steven Jackson who's going to be a little more effective with that ground and pound style. When they first picked him up, it was kind of like a Michael Turner replacement when they first got him, a little fresher legs. But they're a passing team when you have Gonzalez and Jones and White, and now you're down your third stringer, your slot is going to be your starter.
Yeah.
And you got your 4 and 5. So
Steven Jackson isn't known as a pussy though. He's always been a tough guy. And yeah, he gets injured from time to time, but when he comes back, he bounces back.
He's hardly missed any games, but he's been out for 5 weeks with a bruised thigh.
Well, it's a hammy.
Hammy, too.
Well, I guess when you combine those,
He's an improvement from Turner.
I suppose.
Oh, Turner's brutal.
He wants to win. He's not just making his paycheck. He's got a lot to prove. He's never been in a winning organization. But does he come out on third downs?
And is it him, maybe? As soon as he comes to the Falcons, we go from NFC Championship to 2 and 4?
Yeah, that guy carries the loser card around with him to whatever team he goes, doesn't he? That's pretty bad, actually.
Steven Jackson here to report.
And not to mention the fact, well, I mean, the Rams aren't that good this year, but they're probably having one of their better years in a long time. Well, that's since the greatest show on turf days.
The Kurt Warner days. And
Never forget.
Ozzie or Hakeem.
Yeah.
But I think the biggest issue, obviously, is injuries. Our left tackle's been out for a majority of the season. He's played terrible when he's been in. And our defense is one of the worst in the league, ranked 30th.
Yep.
They were really, really bad. I think probably, I saw a Pee Wee game earlier. I think it might have been 5th, 6th graders. They could probably put up 250 yards on them. And we have Washington's own Desmond Trufant, who's getting beat like he stole something on a weekly basis.
Shoot me a score right now. Atlanta Falcons playing at the Carroll College.
The Carroll College?
Yes.
Carroll College now?
In the Mahoney days or Carroll College?
Carroll College, your best year.
Our best year is probably my second year. And I would say Atlanta right now against that team, Atlanta by a field goal.
Really?
Bullshit. You guys would get crushed.
Okay.
They would have 90 by half.
Let's say you have 12 carries. You have 12 carries in that game, Mark. How many yards do you rush for?
I had 12 carries?
Yes.
I had negative 10.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, then how do you lose by a field goal?
I was being facetious. And for all you folks out there, that's a big term for smart aleck. So feel free to use that in your daily lexicon.
Wait, that was
Facetious.
Okay.
I'm not going to spell it, but you know I can.
Okay, guys, can we move on to some actual football now?
Sorry.
Mark, what do you think? What do you think? Falcons?
Cardinals have a great
Cardinals?
defense. Carson Palmer is just throwing interceptions left and right, but our defense can't intercept him. It will be Falcons by at least a touchdown. I'm going to call it 27-20 Falcons.
Okay. You're a betting man in Vegas. You're putting all your chips on the Falcons.
Oh, absolutely. It's this easiest bet this week by far. Now moving on to, I would say, one of the most hated teams outside of the Patriots, the hometown Seattle Seahawks. Everyone will be happy to hear Max is just a flag-flying Seahawks fan since last year.
Thanks, Mark. It's really nice to move on from the college sports to the NFL. Let's talk about the Seahawks going on the road to take on the St. Louis Surge. Okay, it's the second WNBA joke of the night. Sorry about that. Hawks are 10-point favorites, but folks, this is going to be a rout on the road.
We're sponsored by the WNBA. We need to.
So there's actually a team called the St. Louis Surge?
Didn't the
Sounds made up.
Didn't the WNBA adopt almost all of the similar mascot types that the NBA had?
I couldn't tell you.
Like the Sparks versus the Lakers, and they're both purple and gold.
The color scheme stayed very similar.
Color schemes.
New York Liberty were the same colors. The Seattle Storm, who might be the team we work for, tune in later to find out.
All right, sorry to interrupt, Max.
What I was saying is, if when the Hawks win, they'll go to 7-1, come back home to take on the Bucks next Sunday. And Al, that's going to be your first game cheering on the Seahawks, isn't it? At the Clink against the Bucks.
Oh, that's right. I am going to that game. Yeah, I went to one game last year. It was against the Vikings, so I wasn't cheering on the Seahawks. But yeah, you're right. It'll be my first game cheering on the Hawks. And hey, man, I'm happy to dive onto your bandwagon, hop right on, I should say.
It's a fun time to be a Hawks fan. But back to the St. Louis game. As we know, Sam Bradford is out. He tore his ACL. So they'll be starting Kellen Clemens. Might as well start Shane Falco, Alan.
Shane Falco.
Shane Falco.
Footsteps Falco.
Also known as my bar name, or when I go to Stanford frat parties. Anyways, not much more to say about this game. Hawks win 31-10.
Yeah, that's an easy win for you guys.
Now, is Percy Harvin going to be playing?
I don't think so. Why rush him back in a meaningless game?
Will you play him against Tampa?
I think he does play against Tampa Bay
At home,
at home.
gets that introduction out of the tunnel.
You want him to have a soft landing, but the rest of your schedule is basically a soft landing.
That's not true. We got to go to your Falcons on the road.
Plus, they've got the Vikings at home.
Got the Vikings. Got to take on New Orleans on Monday Night Football.
They're overrated. You're going to drub New Orleans.
Mark never gives any credit to any Seahawks anything. And then you got to go right after that game on a short week to San Francisco.
And I personally think that they're going to... I know everyone in the area is worried about that game at San Francisco, but I think Colin Kaepernick is just...
He's overrated.
Sherman, the whole Legion of Boom is in his head. He has played awful in his 2 times. I know they've both been in Seattle. I think Alex Smith was the recipe to success when the Niners were beating the Seahawks.
Huh. So that's positivity towards the Seahawks from Mark.
You won't hear a lot of it, folks. All right, so now we'll get ready to move on from the NFL a little bit. We are going to pick an upset special. I don't know if we all have the same one. We haven't exchanged notes yet. So we'll go back to Alan and see what his upset special is for the week.
There's a couple games you can choose from. I suppose an upset. The biggest upset I would imagine is Cleveland at KC, and I can't even pick that game as my upset special. So I can't say that. But taking a quick look at it here, I would. You know what? I actually think that it's an upset, and I'm going to go with the Vikings over the Packers.
All
Vikings over
right.
the Packers.
Love to hear it. Mine, I'm going to be real quick on this. I think the Jets continue their success. They are a little bit of an underdog at Cincinnati. I think they take over from what the Patriots are calling a screw job in the call, but who cares what the Patriots think. So I'm going to go Jets over the Bengals. That's my pick.
Now, Mark, the Jets have kind of been win one, lose one. What makes you think that they can take it down on the road at Cincy?
Well, the Jets have a really strong defense. I think they'll be able to shut down A.J. Green. And, I mean, other than that, who else does Cincinnati really have?
When we look back in 10 years, will Geno Smith be the best player to come out of that draft class?
He was a second-round pick. He wasn't even good enough to be in the first round.
Just saying. Who?
No. I mean, I see his career arc very similar to Mark Sanchez, minus all the hot chicks.
Okay, time for Max's pick. I am going with the Raiders over the Steelers. Terrell Pryor, puts on the
You
best
would,
QB.
Max. You'd totally pick on the hard-working American Steeler men.
Terrell Pryor,
Classic Seattle, Amazon, Microsoft.
best quarterback performance since Rich Gannon. Terrell Pryor tucks and runs. There's a new tuck rule. Playoffs, anyone? His way to a 3-point victory as Ben takes more meaningless sacks and doesn't get the blame in his loss.
Oh, okay.
I mean, the guy sees Teflon.
He steps right into sacks just so we can say he's so hard, he doesn't get hurt, he's durable. Look at him get rid of the ball.
One more thing, this brought it
Sorry
up
to interrupt.
because he did have the 2 Super Bowls, so he's got the rings and the rakes kind of out. They balance it out. One thing I heard on ESPN, which was just baffling to me, they did a whole 15-minute segment on if Peyton Manning doesn't win another Super Bowl, his career is an utter disappointment, and that is absolutely ridiculous. I mean, people call Dan Marino the best ever. Some people do. He didn't win any.
Yeah.
You can't really. I know a Super Bowl's a big deal, but Trent Dilfer won a Super Bowl.
Comes down to a lot of luck. What division you're in?
He's the exception to the rule.
Brad Johnson won a Super Bowl with Tampa Bay.
Those guys, those are the 2 exceptions to the rule of great quarterbacks winning Super Bowls. I would have a hard time putting Manning above Brady or Montana if he doesn't win another Super Bowl.
I mean, I'm not going to put him above Montana. I'm not a big fan of Tom Brady, mainly because I'm jealous of his awesome wife, so I hate him. And Tom Brady, he went to Michigan, and Montana went to Notre Dame, so.
I mean, Peyton's feeling the pressure, though. He's got, 2-3 years left? His brother's already have 2 rings. But Eli hasn't played the Steelers, hasn't played the Patriots in every postseason. Depends on the league you're in and luck.